Hey, Friar Faithful. This is the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Jackson swings, hits it in the air, deep to right field. He has done it again. Unbelievable.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt.
Ultimately, what we're here to do is win.
From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today, the Padres take on the Arizona Diamondbacks in the first game of a three-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today on the mound for Arizona, right-hander Ryan Nelson, and for the Padres, right-hander Stephen Kolek. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios on this Friday evening. First pitch coming up in Arizona at 6:40 p.m. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we have a lot to do. We'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll hear from today's left fielder Tyler Wade. We'll hear from Diamondbacks radio broadcaster Chris Garagiola. And we also hear from Padres radio voice Jesse Agler coming up in just a few minutes. But first, it's time to set the table. Brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations. La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside, and at FraserFarmsMarket.com. Well, this is the first meeting between these two teams, the Diamondbacks and the Padres, in 2025. Padres entered today 38-29. They just lost 2 of 3 from the Dodgers. They play the Dodgers in a 4-game series in LA starting on Monday. Dbacks, meanwhile, even at 500 at 34-34. They just swept the Mariners in a 3-game series. Arizona playing some good baseball right now. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. Padres entered today sitting in 3rd place in the National League West, just 2 games behind LA for first place. Today begins another stretch of 13 games in a row with no off day. Padres are currently in the midst of a stretch of 26 games in 27 days. Meanwhile, the Dbacks sit 6.5 games out of first place in the division. Well, the Padres and Dodgers played the rubber game of their 3-game set in San Diego on Wednesday. Let's quickly rewind.
Did you miss what happened in the last Padres game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind on the Padres Radio Network.
Wednesday afternoon at Petco Park, bottom half of the second, the bases were loaded for Martin Maldonado.
3 balls and a strike. Maldonado takes outside, ball 4. Back-to-back walks issued with 2 outs here in the second inning, and this one will bring Bogaerts home. The first run of the day, it's 1-0 Padres.
Padres still led 1-0 going to the 5th inning with 1 out and nobody on. Michael Conforto dug in against Randy Vasquez.
Conforto goes after the first pitch. Hits it high and deep to left center field. Merrill is back at the wall, looking up. It's going to go. Home run for Michael Conforto to tie the game. His 4th as a Dodger. And a fan out there trying to make a catch of that home run ball. Kind of tumbled forward onto that platform behind the left field fence. Conforto getting ready to hit the dish. And we are 1-1 here in the 5th.
Vasquez got through 4 2/3 innings, allowed just that 1 run. We were still tied at 1 going to the top of the 6th inning. Jeremiah Estrada on the mound. There were 2 on for Teoscar Hernandez.
2-1 the pitch. Hernandez swings, sends it in the air to deep center field. Jackson Merrill's back. He is at the wall. He will watch, and it will go. A 3-run homer for Teoscar Hernandez. His 11th of the year, and the Dodgers lead for the first time today. It's 4-1.
Padres would make it 4-2. Dodgers got another run to make it 5-2, and that was our final score. Dodgers 5 and the Padres 2. LA winning 2 out of 3. But again, these two teams meeting on Monday in LA for game 1 of a 4-game series. But first things first, game 1 of this 3-game set coming up at 6:40 between the Padres and the Diamondbacks. As always, if you want to get involved on our pregame coverage, you can do that in a number of different ways. You can find me on X or Instagram at SammyLev, SammyLev. Let me know who you are and where you're tuned in from. Might just give you a shout out here on the air, or if you want to tell me your key to today's game, you can do that as well. Let's go out to Chase Field in Phoenix.
let's take a trip up to the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup with Jesse Agler in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Jesse, yesterday, your only off day in about a month or in a month span with these next 13 days in a row having games. How was your off day yesterday?
Oh, it was very quiet, Sam. A little bit under the weather, and the only time I got out of bed yesterday was to go pick up my DoorDash order at the front desk. That was the entirety of my off day. So I used it to rest up a little bit, try and feel a little bit better, and as you said, kind of buck up because start of another long stretch here tonight.
Yeah, start of another long stretch, 13 more in a row starting tonight. Let's talk about the guy in the mound tonight for the Padres, Stephen Kolek. And Jesse, Stephen's turning into a really, really nice story, not just this season, but for this organization as a whole. You look at what he's done as of late, 2 straight starts of 5 2/3 scoreless innings. Your thoughts on what Stephen Kolek continues to do with this opportunity?
Yeah, take the most of it, make the most of it, certainly. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, this is a success story that's blooming here in front of all of our eyes. Not a finished product by any stretch of the imagination. Plenty of work to do. Not suggesting he's a top of the rotation guy today, but he is, I think, showing what he has always known was inside of him. And to be able to go out there every 5 days and kind of have that consistency and be able to get the opportunity on a regular basis for some guys is really all that's required. And he has really taken the bull by the horns. All those cliches apply, certainly. And it has been really, really fun watching him go out there, kind of learn some lessons, sometimes the hard way, but learn some lessons, figure some things out on the fly. And it seems like really settle into a nice groove. So we all understand. Just ask the Dodgers. Just ask the Diamondbacks. Just look at the Padres.
Yeah.
How important pitching depth is. And to be able to have a guy like this contributing in the way that he is, goes an awful long way to any kind of success this team is going to have this year.
And you mentioned the pitching for the Diamondbacks, so let's talk a little bit about that. Ryan Nelson on the mound for the Diamondbacks today. They've been dealing also, much like the Padres, with a lot of pitching injuries. Corbin Burns is out for the year, maybe most of next year as well. Jordan Montgomery, start of the year, he goes down, out for the year. And look, they're a team that is scoring a lot of runs as of late. They do sit at 500. They also have a lot of pieces that would be very attractive to other teams around the deadline. So you look at the next month or so, it's going to be a big month for them in deciding what they do. I just said a lot of it, but your thoughts on kind of where the Diamondbacks are right now at this point in the season?
Yeah, there's kind of the micro and the macro conversation, right? And you mentioned the macro conversation in terms of the trade deadline, and it'll be here in a hurry. You're talking 6 weeks basically, and in baseball, that can go by in a blink of an eye. So they're trying to bump back above 500 here tonight. But obviously a very competitive division. 500 not going to get it done in this National League West. So they're going to have to show some things in the next month plus. But, from a micro level and what they are this year, I can make it sound very simple. It never is. But basically, right, if we're going to be general, they can hit like crazy. But the pitching and the defense have been really big problems for them. In part, certainly because of injuries, you said, but also general ineffectiveness from a lot of the arms, particularly in the bullpen. They're getting a couple of guys working, late in games now that was not the plan at all, who are effective for them kind of at the back end of the bullpen. And so, you start to think that, all right, if you are the Diamondbacks, where would you be without Jalen Beeks? Where would you be without Shelby Miller? That just shows you the beautiful unpredictability of this game, because I don't think anybody had those two guys circled as their most important relief, arms at this point of the year, but that's where they're at. But the defense has not been great. The pitching has not been great, but they can really, really hit. And so they present a challenge because of that. And, there's a lot of fate to be decided for a lot of guys on this roster. Zach Gallen, who's starting tomorrow, he kind of had the quote that went viral the other day, and he was dead on. He understands the reality of the contracts of a lot of guys here, and if they don't get it right in the next month or so, there could be a lot of pieces leaving town.
Yeah, they're a really fascinating team because you feel like there's a lot of talent. Like we've said, they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, big guys, big pitchers that are out for the year, but you do almost feel like there's a chance they could turn this thing around under a good manager in Torey Lovello. So it will be a fascinating team in the next month or so. I do have a comment here from YouTube, so I'll ask it because I'm curious too. What is the comfort food of choice via DoorDash yesterday, if you're willing to share?
It's funny. It was kind of like, I don't know, maybe 11:30 in the morning, 11:45. And there's a bagel place here that I really like. And in fact, during spring training, it's kind of over like this part of the valley, I will actually drive like once a year in spring training to go have it because I like it that much. And so a couple of bagels, an iced coffee, diet Dr. Brown's cream soda. Sam, you can certainly see where I'm coming from here. And that was some good sick comfort food yesterday on the off day. It's like 105 degrees, outdoors, so I wasn't going to go outside and do much anyway. So it was kind of perfect. Kept the shades drawn pretty much all day long. Had my bagel, had my coffee, slept, watched a movie, and then watched the hockey game last night. So that was pretty much the sick day.
Good. Yeah. Well, I was going to say, not much you can do when it's over 100 outside. Yeah. It's a lot cooler there when we're there for spring training. Jesse, as always, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Tony coming up at 6:30 as the Padres begin this series in Arizona. Thanks so much.
You got it, man.
All right, that is Jesse Agler joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network as we get ready for today's game coming up at 6:40. Again, we go out to Jesse and Tony at 6:30. Still a lot to do on our pregame coverage. We'll hear from Diamondbacks radio broadcaster Chris Garagiola, get his thoughts on the Diamondbacks, what's been going on in Arizona as of late. We also hear from today's left fielder, Tyler Wade. We'll give you the starting lineups when we return. Much more to do on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. You're locked in on a Friday to the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Hope you're having a great Friday, getting ready for Padres baseball as the Padres begin this 3-game series in Arizona. Still a lot to do. We'll hear from today's left fielder, Tyler Wade, coming up in a little bit. We'll also check in with Diamondbacks radio voice, Chris Garagiola. Padres lineup today looks like this. Fernando Tatis Jr. in right field leading off. Luis Arraez at first base batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Jackson Merrill in center batting cleanup. Gavin Sheets, the DH, batting fifth. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting sixth. Jake Cronenworth at second base in the seventh spot. Elias Diaz doing the catching batting eighth. And Tyler Wade in left field batting ninth with right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for San Diego. Meanwhile, for Arizona, Corbin Carroll in right field leading off. Ketel Marte at second base batting second. Geraldo Perdomo at shortstop batting third. Josh Naylor at first base batting cleanup. Eugenio Suarez at third base batting fifth. In the sixth spot, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in left, Pavin Smith, the DH, batting seventh, Gabriel Moreno, the catcher, batting eighth, and Alec Thomas in center batting ninth with right-hander Ryan Nelson on the mound. Let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt before today's game.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt, served up by Sin Lee Food, where fresh meets flavor. Find farm fresh produce, bold Asian spices, and gourmet ingredients at 4665 El Cajon Boulevard. Sin Lee Food, the cook's Asian resource.
Gavin Sheets, what do you like about what he's been doing? I mean, he's really getting his first opportunity to every day face the best left-handers to face, and maybe the results haven't quite, but what do you see?
I see a good at bat. I mean, the one thing that he's done, he's got all of our guys have it, but I look at his at-bats, including lefties, and you see a real intentionality of what he's doing. And he's got a plan to do it, and he's been able to perform. And performance comes in a lot of different ways, and you can track it a lot of different ways. And more recently, the numbers haven't been there as much. We're not naive to that. The other thing is, if you suggest hitting form, which may be part of this question, is it? Yeah. Okay, so I thought. There's another bat that comes after that. Sometimes the way the game runs, and you just have to make a decision, because you can't reinsert them.
What is the plan with you while he is here?
He's going to throw in simulated game tomorrow, more likely at the complex.
What do you think that, since he's done sort of up and downs in the bullpen, what is that going to involve? How many pitches, that kind of thing?
We're not sure. I mean, it'll be with hitters clearly, so that's the next step, and it'll probably be in the 40-ish pitch range, is my guess.
He reached the point where he did a rehab start last time, so it might be hard to kind of gauge where he is. But this seems like a pretty big step.
It is a big step. It's a big step, and then the next step's the next big step about the recovery.
I assume no way to really know what to do after this.
It'll only be based on how he comes out of it.
What do you think have been the Kolek's biggest strengths? Pitching every 5 days and having the trust that no matter the outcome, he'll be in the rotation on his extra.
Yeah, throwing strikes, multiple pitches for strikes, the ability to – the sinker's really good. He's able to throw it into righties, get guys on the ground, gets early quick outs. He's also been able to throw cutter. Has been a really effective pitch. The changeup's shown up. The breaking ball's been good. So he's got weapons to both sides.
What do you guys decide on any next steps for Michael King at this point?
I wish we could. It's just a rest. It's just a matter how he heals and how this thing comes up. But until he can pick up a baseball and throw it consistently, there's really no planning.
That was Padres manager Mike Shildt earlier today inside the Padres dugout. We'll hear more from Mike on our post-game coverage coming up later on this evening. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studio. So again, you heard the update there. Yu Darvish slated to throw a simulated game likely at the team's complex in Peoria, Arizona, not far from Chase Field tomorrow. So that's very good news on the Yu Darvish front. As far as the Michael King front, I don't know. You heard there from Mike Shildt, there really no planning until he can pick up a ball and, throw it consistently. So continues to be a little bit of a mystery as far as what the timeline is going to be for Michael King. Obviously, somebody that's very, very important to this Padres rotation, who's now been out a while. So continues not to be a ton of information out there on what exactly the timeline will be for Michael King. So hopefully some good news on that on that front as soon as possible. First pitch coming up at 6:40. Let's tell you who's hot, who's not.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
Let's begin with a look at the hot category. Manny Machado, his last 19 games. Manny hitting .355 with 7 home runs, 19 RBIs. All those marks are top 5 in the National League in that span. In the not category, Fernando Tatis Jr., 36 games since May 1st. Fernando is batting just .188 with 10 RBIs. Jake Cronenworth also just 4 for his last 24. And that's a look at who's hot, who's not, as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 6:40. When we come back, we'll take a look at headlines from around the major leagues. We also hear from Padres left fielder Tyler Wade, and we check in with Chris Garagiola, the Diamondbacks radio broadcaster, along with our keys to the game and a full breakdown of today's pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Ryan Nelson. First pitch coming up in a little bit in Arizona, right here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. First pitch coming up at 6:40 in Arizona. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. We go out to Jesse and Tony at Chase Field in Phoenix in just about 25 minutes. Let's take you around the horn, give you some headlines from around the major leagues.
Let's examine the most important news and the latest information you need to know in the world of Major League Baseball. Sam Levitt takes you around the horn. Presented by Valley View Casino and Hotel. Get ready for Major League winning when you join Valley View Casino and Hotel's Players Club and receive over $200 in free instant offers. Visit valleyviewcasino.com to learn more today.
Let's start with the latest news involving Brewers pitcher Aaron Civale. This was a story that came out yesterday. It might have been actually Wednesday morning, but we didn't get to it on Around the Horn on Wednesday. Aaron Civale requesting a trade from the Brewers after they moved him to the bullpen, and the Brewers said, okay, you want out of here? Here you go. They dealt him to the Chicago White Sox. Brewers dealing Civale in $807,000 in cash to the White Sox for first baseman Andrew Vaughn. Giants third baseman Matt Chapman will begin rehab in a week. He sprained his right hand, visited Dr. Stephen Shin in L.A. Today, and he was told to wear a splint until then, but sounds like he won't miss that much time. The Tampa Bay Rays acquired right-hander Forrest Whitley from the Houston Astros in exchange for cash considerations today. Whitley was once a top 10 prospect in baseball. He was DFA'd by the Astros over last weekend. Finally, A's pitcher Gunnar Hoagland underwent season-ending hip surgery today after making his big league debut last month. And that's a quick look at some of the headlines from around the major leagues. And by the way, just a note on that Civale story. On one hand, you might say, well, joke's on you, Aaron Civale. Now you got to go pitch for the White Sox. But remember, now he gets what he wants. He's in a starting role with the White Sox. That's what he wanted in a year where he's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. And also, the White Sox probably view this as if Civale pitches well, they can then flip him at the deadline to another team and get a nice package back. As always, everybody's going to be looking for starting pitching at the deadline. So Civale really does get what he wants, and the Brewers get a player in Andrew Vaughn in return. Let's take a look at the injuries for the Padres and the Dbacks.
Who's in? Who's out? This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
Well, the headline right now, injury-wise, for both these teams dealing with significant pitching injuries. Of course, the Padres without Yu Darvish, but like we said earlier, Yu is scheduled to throw a simulated game, likely in Peoria tomorrow. Michael King, still no timetable on when he will return. He continues to deal with that pinched nerve in his right shoulder. So, two big pitching injuries for the Padres. As far as the D-backs, they've also dealt with a ton of starting rotation injuries. Jordan Montgomery out for the year. He had Tommy John. Corbin Burns also out for the year due to Tommy John. And by the way, earlier today, Torey Lovullo, Diamondbacks manager, telling the media that Justin Martinez, the flame-throwing right-hander in their bullpen, had been a big part of that pen. He will also undergo Tommy John surgery. So this team in Arizona, they continue to deal with pitching injuries. Martinez, Burns, and Montgomery now all gone for the season due to UCL injuries, Tommy John surgery. By the way, Eduardo Rodriguez also missed time, but he is now back. So it's been a rough go of it for Arizona pitching-wise, and that's a look at the major injuries right now for the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Well, Chris Garagiola, Diamondbacks radio broadcaster, joined the Braden Soprenet show earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan. Really nice conversation focusing on what's been going on in Arizona so far this season. As we talked about with Jesse Agler a little bit earlier, even though they've had pitching injuries and pitching woes, the Diamondbacks offense continues to be very productive. Here was D-backs radio broadcaster Chris Garagiola on the Arizona offense.
Going back to spring, there was all these question marks about losing Christian Walker, losing Jock Peterson. I mean, this is baseball's best run-scoring team in 2024, missed the postseason by a game. How would they be able to recreate that juice? And you mentioned, obviously, Josh Naylor. He's been a huge acquisition. Gabby Moreno has really picked it up since the end of April, where he really struggled. And you're talking about June numbers. Alec Thomas, the Diamondbacks have been looking for consistent center field play. They opened the year with Jake McCarthy. I think he was 4 for almost his first 40. He's been down in AAA since. And Thomas has quietly started to figure some things out with the stick. This is a team that can score runs when things are going right, and they can put up some runs against good pitching staffs as well. We've seen that. Unfortunately, early in the year, the pitching woes were so strong that even when the D-backs were scoring 8 runs, 10 runs, 12 runs in a game, they were still losing, where, math tells you if you score 6 runs, you're going to win like 82% of the time. So the offense has been there for the last 2 years. It's great to see what they're doing in June. They're going to have to keep it going because of some of the inconsistent play that we saw in April and in May. And, look, unlike the Padres, the D-backs, they're basically sitting at 500. They're running out of time here to decide if they want to be buyers or sellers. And a couple bad series, and all of a sudden, it kind of changes the direction of what this team thought they might be doing in 25.
That was Diamondbacks radio broadcaster Chris Garagiola earlier today on 97.3 The Fan. Let's hear a little bit more from Chris. Here was Chris Garagiola on today's starting pitcher for the D-backs, right-hander Ryan Nelson.
For Padre fans, this is a guy who, the Diamondbacks also had just a ton of injuries in 2024. And they had him, pitching every 5th day. And for about a 3-month stretch, he was the best starter in the Diamondbacks rotation. You go back to last year from July 2nd to September 3rd. That's the date range we kind of referenced a lot. He had basically a 12-start stretch where he was 5-0 with a 2.76 ERA. That's close to 100 innings pitched. That's legitimate. All right, you can throw the ball at this level. And again, with the injuries now, they're going to need him to tap into that form. He's got a great four-seam fastball. Gets a lot of swing and miss, even in a day where hitters can really cope with good velocity. If they can provide some length, that's going to be the big key for the Diamondbacks in the series and moving forward. It's a tested bullpen. You need these starters to go 6, potentially 7 innings. Try and give some of these guys in the pen a little bit of a breather. Allow Torre to have better matchup games. If they do that, they can hang with anyone. If the Padres can get to Nelson early, it's going to be a tough day for the Diamondbacks.
That was D-backs radio broadcaster Chris Garagiola earlier today here on 97.3 The Fan. Good insight there from Chris, and we'll talk plenty more about Ryan Nelson in our next segment. First pitch coming up at 6:40 between the Padres and the Snakes. Let's give you our keys to tonight's game.
How will the Padres unlock a win today? These are the keys to the game. Presented by El Centro Motors Ford. Meet your new Ford General Manager, Greg Ryan, now at El Centro Motors Ford, your new Ford truck, Bronco, and SUV HQ. Call Greg directly at 619-944-0774.
Key number 1, El Nino arriving in Arizona. We've documented Fernando Tatis Jr.'s struggles extensively, but maybe, just maybe, a trip to Arizona can be the cure to Fernando's slump. Here's why. Fernando Tatis Jr. has a .317 batting average and .698 slugging percentage with 20 home runs in 50 career games against the Arizona Diamondbacks. And in 25 games in Arizona at Chase Field, he has a .1013 OPS and 8 home runs. So will a trip to Arizona finally get Fernando going? That's key number 1. Key number 2, slow down Suarez. Eugenio Suarez hit a grand slam on Wednesday, helping the Diamondbacks to a sweep of the Mariners. In fact, the D-backs now have 8 grand slams already this season in just more than 60 games. Suarez leads the D-backs with 52 RBIs. That ranks 7th in the major leagues. Key number 3, cool off Ketel. D-backs second baseman Ketel Marte is in the midst of a 24-game on-base streak. In that span, he has a .446 on-base percentage, .1084 OPS, 9 home runs in his last 24 games. Like we said, a lot of dangerous guys in this lineup for Arizona. Even though they've had pitching issues, they can swing it. And key number 4, let's talk a little bit more about that. Stephen Kolek against the lineup that likes righties. The Diamondbacks have been a really good team this season against right-handed pitching in particular. A .260 batting average against righties ranks 3rd in the majors. 80 home runs against righties ranks 2nd. .817 OPS ranks 1st. Kolek has been better against righties than lefties this season. Right-handed hitters are batting just .210 against him with a .463 OPS. So that's a big battle tonight. Kolek is a guy who is good against righties. The D-backs are a team that hits right-handed pitching really, really well. So key number 4, who wins that battle tonight, Kolek or this Diamondback lineup? That's a big, big key in today's game, and that's a look at our keys to the game in this series opener between San Diego and Arizona. When we come back, a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We hear from today's left fielder, Tyler Wade. We tell you what to watch for in today's game, and a full breakdown of our starting pitching matchup between Stephen Kolek and Ryan Nelson. First pitch coming up at 6:40 in Arizona. You're tuned in to our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up in Arizona at 6:40. Game one of this three-game series between the Padres and the Diamondbacks. Padres beginning a 7-game road trip here today. 3 games in Arizona, 4 games Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in Los Angeles against the Dodgers. So it is another big stretch for the Pods coming up. This is the first of 13 games in 13 days the Padres will play over the next couple of weeks. So continues to be a very tough schedule. We'll see how the Padres respond with game one of these 13 straight here today against Arizona. Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres and Ryan Nelson on the mound for Arizona. Hope you're having a great Friday. You heard me talk last week about all the June gloom around here. Lots of cloudy skies. Well, looking out at the skies right now from our studios by Murphy Canyon, could not be more beautiful on this Friday. So hope you're having a great Friday, getting ready for a terrific weekend. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard.
Let's take a trip around the bigs to highlight the scores that matter most with our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Premium Beef Patties. Always a hit for grilling.
We have a couple of games that have gone final already today. The Phillies beat the Blue Jays in Philadelphia 8-0. Ranger Suarez, 7 shutout innings in that game, gave up just 4 hits as the Phillies win it. The Pirates beat the Cubs in 10, 2-1. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, a sac fly in the 10th inning to win that one for the Pirates at Wrigley Field in Chicago. Everything else is either going on right now or coming up a little bit later. 6-2, the Marlins lead the Nationals in D.C. They have a rain delay, though, in the bottom half of the 4th inning there. Orioles lead the Angels 1-0 in Baltimore in the 5th inning. Tigers lead the Reds 7-2 in the 6th inning in Detroit. Red Sox leading the Yankees 1-0 at Fenway in the 8th inning. Mets had a lead against the Rays, but the Rays scoring a bunch of runs to take a 7-5 lead in the 6th inning at Citi Field in New York. The Rockies and the Braves are tied at 4 in Atlanta in the 7th inning. Rangers 2, White Sox 0 in Arlington in the 5th inning. Astros ahead of the Twins 8-0 in the 3rd in Houston. A's 3, Royals 1 in Kansas City in the 4th inning. Cardinals and Brewers tied at 1 in the 5th inning. Other games yet to begin. Guardians and the Mariners in Seattle at 7-10. And finally, Giants and the Dodgers in LA at 7-10. Good pitching matchup there. Logan Webb for San Francisco and Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the mound for LA. And that's a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll have much more on all those games coming up later in our post-game coverage. Well, Tyler Wade back in left field for the Padres. Tyler, of course, kind of a do-it-all guy on this Padres team. We'll hear from him on that in a moment. Obviously, it's been a pretty interesting journey for Tyler this season. Was back with the Padres in spring training, but then got DFA'd coming out of spring training, did not make the team. Ultimately elected to accept an assignment to the minor leagues, and then shortly into the season was called back up to join the major league club and has been with the Padres ever since. Here was Tyler Wade inside the Padres clubhouse earlier today, reflecting on the journey of this 2025 season so far.
Going back to spring training, I know that was a tough decision, and it wasn't shortly after I realized that they wanted me back here sooner rather than later. So, I decided to accept my outright. And it's like you said, funny. It's funny how things work themselves out, and it happened pretty quick. And God's got a good way of working in his plan. And, I'm just very thankful to be here.
And as you probably know, Tyler fills so many different roles for this team, whether it's playing left right now, whether it was playing center earlier in the season when Jackson Merrill was on the IL, whether it's coming in to pinch run or pinch hit, or we saw him at shortstop the other way. Here was Tyler Wade earlier today on how he continues to prepare for the various roles he may fill on any given day.
I've been doing this role for a long time now, so it's been a lot of trial and error. But I just think the communication from the staff is knowing the lane and the times and opportunities I can get into games. So my pregame work is based around that. And obviously now my second year with Shildt and basically the same staff, I know what he's thinking and where I fit into this lineup if I'm not starting. So it's fairly simple. I just figure out where I look at the lineup and I figure out where my lanes are late in the games, and I base my routine off that.
That was Tyler Wade inside the Padres clubhouse earlier today. Again, Tyler back in the lineup for the Padres today, playing left and batting ninth. Speaking of outfielders, how about we talk about Corbin Carroll for a second, right fielder for the Diamondbacks, leading off today for Arizona. He's the only player in the majors with 10 or more doubles, 5 or more triples, 15 or more home runs, 40 RBIs, and 10 or more stolen bases, and just the third player since 1998 to reach those marks in his team's first 68 games. So he at times had a pretty rough sophomore season, but he has been terrific for the most part here in 2025. Corbin Carroll, as always, a very, very dangerous hitter at the very top of that Arizona lineup. Speaking of the Arizona offense, let's talk a little bit more about them as we tell you what to watch for in this series opener.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For, presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? How about the Dbacks with runners in scoring position? This is a very, very dangerous team when they get opportunities as of late. Among National League teams with runners in scoring position since the beginning of this month, The Diamondbacks rank first in average at 296, first in on-base percentage at 409, at first in slugging at 634, first in OPS at 1043. They've also walked the most times with runners in scoring position, second in home runs, and second in extra base hits. The point being, we know this team can hit, but especially as of late, when you let them get guys in scoring position, they are taking advantage a lot. So if you're Stephen Kolek today, you got to be good, really, really good against this Diamondbacks lineup because, again, as of late, when they get guys on base, they will hurt you. That's what to watch for in today's game. Speaking of Stephen Kolek, I like here on the pregame today, we've kind of been weaving one topic into the other. Speaking of the Arizona offense, speaking of Stephen Kolek, let's take a full breakdown of this pitching matchup between Kolek and Ryan Nelson.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Right-hander Stephen Kolek on the mound for the Padres today. 28 years old, comes into today's game 3-1, 3 ERA in 7 starts and 42 innings. He has been really, really effective so far in this starting role. Last start, 5 2/3 scoreless innings against the Brewers. His start before that, 5 2/3 innings, no runs given up against the Giants. Kolek carries a 15 2/3 innings scoreless streak into today's game. Believe it or not, that is the longest active streak among major league starters. And remember, it started after he gave up the 6 runs in the first inning against Miami and then really settled in. So from that point on, since that really rough first inning against the Marlins, he has not allowed another run. An interesting little note about his last 2 starts, they've been scoreless despite him walking more than he struck out. He's walked 6 in those 2 starts and struck out 5. Just something to keep in mind. Also, Kolek has been really good on the road. A 0.85 ERA in 5 road starts so far this season. Get this, the lowest by any Padres player through 5 road starts in franchise history. That is how good Stephen Kolek has been on the road in particular. As far as Ryan Nelson on the mound today for Arizona, he's 2-2, 4.60 ERA, 14 outings on the year, 4 starts, 45 innings, 38 strikeouts, and 15 walks. Last start was rough in Cincinnati, gave up 7 earned runs in 3 innings. He had been really, really good before that, had a 1.72 ERA in his 31 innings prior to that start. Nelson has never been great after he made his major league debut against the Padres back in September of 2022. Remember that game in September of 2022 at Petco Park? Think about it. He went 7 scoreless innings in his major league debut. Well, Nelson, in his 9 career appearances, 8 starts against San Diego, the overall numbers are not very good. A 5.61 ERA in 43-plus innings. So since that first start ever against the Padres, they've actually hit him pretty well. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup today. Ryan Nelson for Arizona and Stephen Kolek on the mound for San Diego. As always, thank you for listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show. EcoWater SoCal, keeping it soft since 1925. Your water should be perfect. When we come back, we go out to Phoenix, Arizona. Jesse Agler, Tony Gwynn Jr. have the starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you on our post-game coverage. You're listening to your home for San Diego Padres baseball, 97.3 The Fan, and the Padres Radio Network. See you later.